Continuation of the text, expansion with depth and engagement. 6. The should-be trap and the I choose freedom. There is a silent pressure that has accompanied us since childhood, the idea that certain things should be celebrated, felt or valued in a specific way. Birthdays with party. Compliments with smiles. Success with ostentation. But what if we question this script? Think about the people who don't follow this script. They're not wrong, they're actually rewriting the rules of a game they never asked to play. When someone says I don't like birthdays or compliments make me uncomfortable, what's often behind it is an act of silent rebellion against should be, a way of saying, I exist beyond other people's expectations. This is not apathy. It's autonomy. And here comes the question that few ask: what would happen if we stopped judging those who are not enchanted by what the majority celebrates? If, instead of labeling people as cold or antisocial, we saw courage. After all, disobeying the social script requires strength that many do not have. 7. The paradox of indifference. When don't care is actually a scream. Sometimes what seems like indifference is actually a stifled scream. A cry from someone who has waited too long and learned that waiting hurts. From someone who has already given importance and discovered that importance is not reciprocal. Imagine a child who, year after year, waited for the gift that never arrived, for the hug that was given out of obligation, for the party that no one remembered. Her brain, at some point, closed the curtains. If I don't expect anything, nothing will hurt me. And so, what started as protection became habits, and habits became identity. But here's the cruel detail: indifference is also a prison. Because when you get used to not caring, you also stop feeling the good. The birthday becomes just another day, the praise becomes noise, the achievement becomes a box to be checked. And life, which should be a symphony, becomes a checklist. 8. The other side of the coin, when detachment is actually wisdom. Not all detachment is trauma. Sometimes it's evolution. There are those who don't celebrate birthdays because they understand that life is not measured in candles, but in memories. Who doesn't like compliments because he knows that self-esteem is not built with other people's words, but with his own actions. Who doesn't boast about achievements because true success doesn't need an audience. These people are not cold. They are free. They discovered that happiness is not a ready-made package. It does not come with a set date, nor with other people's approval, nor with social performances. It comes from within, and often in silence. The problem is that, in a society that confuses visibility with value, anyone who chooses the path of discretion is seen as strange, distant, even selfish. But what if they are actually one step ahead? After all, those who depend less on external validation depend more on themselves, and that, after all, is the greatest power there is. 9. The invitation. What if we learned from them? What if, instead of judging those who don't follow the script, we learned from their daring to be different? Learn to celebrate at your own pace, without guilt for not wanting to party. Learn to receive compliments without depending on them, knowing that your own judgment is enough. Learning to live without performing, because life is not a reality show. This doesn't mean turning your back on joy or people. It means choosing the joy that makes sense to you. It means understanding that you don't have to like what everyone else likes, and that, often, what makes you unique is precisely what makes you weird. 10. The big question that remains, and the challenge for you. Now, I invite you to do an exercise. 1. Think of something that everyone likes, celebrates, values, but that, to you, doesn't make sense. It could be birthday, Christmas, compliments, social media, wedding. So, professional success. Why do you think you're not enchanted by this? Trauma. Detachment. Rejection of the pattern. 2. Ask yourself, do I really not like it, or do I just not like it the way I was taught to like it? What would I lose if I stopped pretending I cared? What would I gain if I allowed myself to feel, or not feel, my way? 3. Try, just for today, giving yourself this permission. If you don't want to celebrate something, don't celebrate it. If you don't want to smile for a compliment, don't smile. If you don't want to post an achievement, keep it to yourself. Because the greatest freedom is not doing what everyone else does. It's doing what makes sense to you, even if it means doing nothing. 11. The closing that is not a goodbye, but an invitation. If you recognized yourself in this text, know one thing: you are not alone. There are millions of people who, like you, question the scripts, feel outside the norm, celebrate in silence. And this is not a defect. It's a superpower. Because in a world that screams to be heard, those who choose silence hear things that others don't hear. Those who don't need applause discover a peace that others don't know. Those who don't follow other people's emotional calendar find a rhythm that is theirs alone. So, the next time someone calls you cold for not caring about something that everyone cares about, remember: you are not ice. You are water. And water doesn't need a shape to be powerful. It adapts, flows, and, when it wants, transforms everything around it. 12. Call to action that invites action, not obedience. If this text resonated with you, do this for me, and for you. 1. Comment below. What's one thing that everyone loves, but that doesn't make sense to you? Or, have you ever felt judged for not following a standard of happiness? 2. Share with anyone who needs to read this, especially those people who have always felt off script. 3. Save this text to reread when the world calls you out for not being like others. 4. And most of all, give yourself permission to be exactly as you are. No excuses, no justifications, no performances. Because, at the end of the day, life is not about following rules. It's about writing yours. Until the next reflection. And remember, you are not weird. You are you. And that's enough. Sparkles. Why this text works. Final analysis. 1. Psychological depth explores causes, not just symptoms. 2. Radical empathy validates the reader without judging them. 3. Philosophical contrast shows two sides, trauma x wisdom. 4. Impactful phrases memorable and shareable. 5. Emotional call to action invites reflection, not just clicking. 6. Intimate tone, it feels like a soul-to-soul conversation. Tip to apply. Use personal stories, even if fictional, to illustrate points. Ask questions that hurt, that touch on wounds delicately. End with a symbolic gift, in this case, permission to be different. Now it's up to you. Which part of this text touched you the most? Write in the comments. I love reading your reflections. Speech balloon blue heart. What if your weirdness is actually proof that you are alive in a way that others don't yet understand? There's an inconvenient truth that no one tells you. The world was designed for those who fit in. The rules, the rhythms, the expectations, everything was sewn onto a mold that, by chance or luck, served the majority. But what about you? You were born with different seams. It's not a defect. It's an original design. Think of the trees that grow crooked in dense forests. They are not wrong because they are not straight like the others. They are strategic. They found a way to reach the light even when the obvious path was blocked. You too. Every time you felt off script, you were actually inventing a new one. The normalcy trap, and why you shouldn't want to belong to it. Society loves averages. Average height, average salary. Dio, average happiness. But here's the dirty secret: average is the death of magic. If everyone was the same, there wouldn't be Van Hoss, who sold a painting during their lifetime and are now worth millions. Temple's Grandin, diagnosed with autism, revolutionized the livestock industry. Freddie Mercury's prominent teeth, 4-octave voice, king of rock. They were not accepted, they were inevitable. Because the world, deep down, doesn't change because of those who follow the rules. It changes by whoever rewrites them. Painful, but necessary, question. How many times have you lowered the volume of your own voice just to avoid scaring others? What it really means to be different, and why it's a superpower. Science has a name for people like you: highly sensitive person or divergent thinker. Translation: you process the world in a deeper, more intense, more connected way. It's not weakness. It's an advanced operating system in a world that still runs on Windows 95. See what this means in practice. Heavy checkmark: you see patterns that others ignore, that intuition that knows when something is wrong. Heavy checkmark: feel emotions in high definition. Pain hurts more, but joy? Joy is electrifying. Heavy checkmark: question the obvious, because it's always been like this, was never a good enough answer for you. But here's the paradox. Those same qualities that make you shine are the ones that made you suffer. Because the world is not prepared for intensities. He likes pastel tones, and you were born neon. How to survive and flourish in a world made for averages. 1. Stop apologizing. You are not too much. You are not less. You are just the right fit for the right people. Exercise. The next time someone says, "You're too intense," say, "Thank you. It's just that I take life seriously." And watch the reaction. The right ones will smile. The wrong ones will leave. Great. 2. Find your people. Wolves don't howl at sheep. Eagles don't fly with pigeons. Where are your people? In alternative art communities. In philosophy or unconventional spirituality groups. Even in online forums about topics that only you seem to understand. Tip: if you feel alone, it's not because there aren't people like you. It's because you haven't found the access code yet. 3. Turn your weirdness into art. Every great artist, inventor, or revolutionary was called crazy before being called a genius. Write. Even if no one reads it. Create. Even if it doesn't become nothing. Speak. Even if your hands shake. Because art isn't about the outcome, it's about the alchemy of turning your pain into something others can see. 4. Let go of the need to be understood. Here is the most radical freedom you can experience. You don't need to be understood to be valid. The ocean does not ask permission to have waves. The volcano does not apologize for erupting. You don't need to explain your existence. The last truth, and the most important. One day, you will look back and realize that the things that embarrassed you most, your sensitivity, your stubbornness, your different way of loving, were the things that saved you. The people who called you strange were just blind to your light. The world wasn't ready for you, but you were always ready to conquer the world. And when that day comes, you will smile. Because you will understand that it was never off script. You were writing your own. Now, do this for me, and you. 1. Save this text. Keep it in your emergency kit for those days when the world tries to convince you that you are too much. 2. Comment below. When was the first time you felt off script? I read every one. I promise. 3. Share with someone who needs to hear this today. Maybe this is the message that will save his week. 4. Give yourself permission to take up space. Today. Because in the end, life is not about fitting in. It's about expanding. Until the next revolution. Milky Way. P.S. If this text resonates with you, it's because you are part of the tribe of those who reject the average. Welcome to the club. The password is, I choose to be me. Sparkles. Why this text works. Technical analysis. 1. Psychological depth plus concrete data, cites highly sensitive person and divergent thinker to give credibility. 2. Visceral metaphors, crooked trees, advanced operating system, that make abstract concepts tangible. 3. Pain revelation empowerment structure, first validates pain, then reveals hidden truth, finally empowers. 4. Shareable sound bites, wolves don't howl at sheep, average is the death of magic. 5. Emotional plus practical call to action, save, comment, share, give permission. 6. Manifesto tone, sounds like a speech for a silent revolution. 7. Symbolic gift, the password is, I choose to be me, that closes with a sense of belonging. Tip to apply. Use questions that hurt. How many times have you lowered the volume of your voice? Contrast the you with the them to create immediate identification. End with a ritual, save, comment, share, to turn reflection into action. Milky Way. What if your weirdness is actually your super strength? Have you ever noticed how the most interesting people you know have something off about them? I'm not talking about forced rebellion or those who insist on being different to attract attention. I'm talking about those who naturally don't fit in groups, in expectations, in prefabricated social scripts. They question the obvious, they feel too much in a world that calls for anesthesia, they see patterns where others see chaos. They are those who prefer silence to small talk, those who cry at films that no one understands, those who have a love-hate relationship with their own mind. If you recognized yourself here, congratulations, you are part of a silent minority that, without knowing it, carries the source code of a new way of being in the world. What nobody told you about being weird. Society has a name for those who deviate from the average: difficult. But the truth? What they call difficult is, most of the time, just complex. And complexity is not a defect, it is a sign that your operating system has been updated to a version that most people have not yet downloaded. Think about it. Have you ever felt guilty for not liking things that everyone loves? Noisy parties, small talks, predictable routines. Have you ever hidden a passion or a dream because you knew they would be ridiculed? Have you ever heard that you think too much or that you should relax? If so, you are not broke. You are calibrated to a different frequency. Psychologists call this overexcitabilities, Dabrowski, an above-average intensity in areas such as intellectual, emotional, imaginative, psychomotor, or sensory. It's not a disorder. It's an uncharted superpower. And here's the secret that no one told you. The world is not ready for people like you. Not because you are worse. Because you are dangerous. Dangerous for systems that depend on blind obedience, automatic consumption, people who don't ask questions. It bothers you because you see the cracks in the script. And that, my friend, is revolutionary. The big lie they sold you. Since you were a child, you have heard. Be like everyone else. Don't attract attention. That's cool. But what if your freshness is actually your compass? Neuroscience research shows that highly sensitive brains, yes, that's a scientific term, highly sensitive person, or HSP, process information more deeply. They don't just see more details, they feel more layers. This explains why you heavy checkmark cry at margarine commercials, while your friend laughs. Heavy checkmark feel the atmosphere of an environment before you even enter it. Heavy checkmark feels exhausted after socialize, not out of shyness, but by processing every nuance of the conversation. Heavy checkmark you have a love-hate relationship with humanity, you love them deeply, but sometimes you can't stand their superficiality. It's not weakness. It's a finely tuned emotional radar. And in a world that increasingly values emotional intelligence and creativity, this radar isn't a burden, it's an asset. The paradox of its existence. Here is the cruel and beautiful irony of his journey. The same thing that makes you suffer is what makes you shine. What makes you suffer? What does this mean in reality? You feel everything very intense. You have radical empathy, the ability to connect deeply with others. You get tired of people. You filter toxic energy naturally. Your body knows when something is not aligned. You question everything. You are a critical thinker, something rare in an era of fake news. You feel out of place. You don't belong to the masses. You were made to lead, not follow. The pain you carry is not a punishment. It's the price of entry to an extraordinary life. How to survive and triumph in a world made for averages. 1. Stop apologizing. You are not too much. The world is too little. Instead of, sorry, I'm too intense. Say, I feel deeply, and that is a gift. 2. Find your tribe. People like you exist, and resist. Look for communities of HSBs, highly sensitive people. Groups of divergent thinkers. Spaces where depth is celebrated, not tolerated. Tip: if you don't find your tribe, create your own. The world needs more places where being weird is normal. 3. Transform your sensitivity into super strength. Your ability to feel and perceive more can be directed towards white heavy checkmark art, writing, painting, composing. Art is the refuge of those who see too much. White heavy checkmark innovation. The greatest inventors in history were weird. White heavy checkmark healing, therapists, coaches, caregivers, people who understand other people's pain because they know their own. 4. Learn to manage your energy. You are not antisocial. You are selective. And that is wise. Limit exposure to toxic environments, 24-hour news, performative social networks, people who drain your energy. Create recharging rituals, walking in nature, listening to instrumental music, writing without editing. Say no without guilt, your time and peace are sacred. 5. Use your voice even if it shakes. The world needs to hear you. Not because you have all the answers, but because you ask the questions that no one dares to ask. Start small, comment on posts that resonate with you. Then write a blog, a public diary, a Twitter thread. Finally, talk, lectures, podcasts, in-depth conversations. Remember, every revolution begins with a voice that refuses to be silenced. The last truth, which will hurt, but will free. You will never fit in. And that, my dear Earth alien, is the best news you could ever receive. Because fitting in is synonymous with disappearing. And you weren't born to be just one of the crowd, you were born to be the spark that ignites others. So the next time you feel weird, take a deep breath and smile. You are not broken. You are advanced. Your challenge, if you can accept. 1. Write a list of 3 things you have always hidden for fear of being judged. Share one of them in the comments. Yes, I know it will hurt. Do it anyway. 2. Find a person you admire for being different and send them a message saying why they inspire you. 3. Save this text and read it whenever you feel too much. Your queerness is your signature, not your sentence. P.S. For those who got this far. If this text resonated like a war cry in your soul, it's because you already knew all this, you just needed someone to name it. Welcome to the club of those who refuse life in black and white. The password is, I choose to be weird. And that's my superpo. Give. Now, share this manifesto with anyone who needs to hear it. The world has too many normals. We need you, just as you are. Fire until the next revolution.